Good afternoon, students. You'll notice we're kind of changing formats here. I'm just making this video today for those of you whose Chapter 6 test is either held hostage in math solutions or maybe you never took the Chapter 6 test. Anyways, now it's been like 3 or 4 weeks, so I figured I would spend a little bit of time trying to help you study for this. And I would go through the review with you one more time. Maybe you even missed that class. And then you can kind of go back and watch things over and over and over again. So let's get started. Number 1 looks like this, 13 over negative 5. And the instructions say list all numbers for which the rational expression is undefined. So you're basically just going to ignore the numerator. You only want to look at the denominator and just set that guy equal to 0 and solve for x. And that will tell you where it is undefined. So any 0 over any number is just 0. And so that is literally all there is to question number 1. Oh, it doesn't look like my whiteboard is very stable here. All right, number 2. X squared minus 9 is in the numerator. You don't care about that at all. You only want to look at x squared minus 7x plus 10. So if we set that equal to 0 and try to solve, it's going to require us to factor. So two numbers that multiply to a positive 10 but add up to a negative 7 are negative 2 and negative 5. And so if I set this equal to 0, I get a positive 2. If I set x minus 5 equal to 0, I get a positive 5. And that's number 2 is done. Question 3 says simplify if possible. So now we're going to start looking at the ones that need factoring, and then we're going to slash out those common factors. So x squared minus 16 factors to x plus 4, x minus 4, and x squared minus 3x minus 28 factors to x minus 7 and x plus 4. And that way it adds up to that negative 3 and it still multiplies to a minus 28. So you'll see that my common factors here are x plus 4, so those cross off. So there's the final answer to question 3. Number 4. 4 is going to have us use that slip and slide method. I'm not sure I'm going to get the spacing right on this, so bear with me. 6x squared minus x minus 15. That's the numerator. Let's go ahead and factor that guy first. So let's multiply there. X squared minus x minus 90. So we get x minus 10 and x plus 9. And remember, if I multiply by that 6 for the first step, I got to go back and divide by 6. This reduces to 5/3, and so that 5/3, so that 3 is going to slide 3x minus 5. This reduces to 3/2, so that 2 is going to slide back up 2x plus 3. So this is going to become 3x minus 5 and 2x plus 3. Now I'm going to erase all that. So make sure, well, you can always go back and pause, I suppose, and go back. The denominator is x squared plus 19x plus 5. So everything's basically the same. So that's 30, did I write that down right? 15. So this is 90, my bad. I thought it turned out to be the same. All right, and so now instead of one being positive, one being negative, both the 10 and the 9 are going to be positive. So when I go back and divide by that 6, I'm going to end up with those same factors, the 3 and the 5 and the 2 and the 3, but everything is just going to be positive. So 2x plus 5 over 2x plus 3. And so that's my common factor there. And so this is my final answer. Don't do anything else. Don't like cross out the 3's or cross out the 5's. Remember, these guys are married. And so unless it's exactly the same, you don't touch it. So that's your final answer there. All right, then we're going to get into some, I think probably some longer ones. I might factor a little bit as I'm going through it, just to save myself a little space here. So x squared, this is number 5. X squared minus 8x plus 7 is going to factor to x minus 7 and x minus 1. Notice it adds up to negative 8, but multiplies to a positive 7. That 3x can't really be factored. And then we have 6x squared. And then x squared minus 1 is x plus 1, x minus 1. So 3 divides into 6 twice. This x cancels with one of those x's. This x minus 1 cancels with that x minus 1. So it looks like in the numerator I've got a 2, an x, and an x minus 7. So a 2x, x minus 7. And the only thing in the denominator is x plus 1. You can put parentheses around it or not. It doesn't really matter. Final answer. Okay. Number 6. Maybe you like this better and I should have been using the whiteboard all along. Who knows? Okay, number 6, again, I'm kind of going to factor as I go. I'm looking at the 6 on my computer screen, and it looks like it's a division sign, so make sure you flip that second fraction upside down. So x plus 5, and then x plus 1 will add up to 6 over x minus 7, x plus 3, because this is going to add up to that negative 4 and multiply to negative 21. And then I'm going to flip the second fraction. So 2 numbers that multiply to 14 and add up to 9, x minus 7 and x minus 2. And then the bottom, which I'm looking at it, it looks like it's the numerator, but I flipped it down. So I need to multiply to a negative 2. But add up to a negative 1, and so I have that right there. So you can cancel anything on the top with anything on the bottom. So my x minus 2's cancel, my x plus 1's cancel, my x minus 7's cancel. So my final answer is x plus 5 over x plus 3. Oops, I scrolled too far. All right, the last one, this one's kind of long. We're going to have to slip and slide 3 times. So bear with me here. 2x squared minus x minus 1. I don't know if you can hear my dog snoring in the background. She's taking her afternoon nap. X squared minus x minus 2, multiplying that to the back. Let's factor that. If we multiply by 2, don't forget to divide by 2. 2 over 2 is 1. And then this 2 slides right there. So that's 2x plus 1 over... I'm just going to, I think I probably have enough room to work this out. So it's 6x squared minus 5x minus 1. So x squared minus 5x minus 6. Don't choose 2 and 3 because there's no way to make that negative and that negative. So let's pick 6 and 1 to come up with that 5. So x minus 6, x plus 1. If I multiply, don't forget to divide. And so 6 over 6 is 1. And then that 6 is going to slide in front of the x. And I think this is all in this, I'm hoping this whole thing is in the screen. And then the last one, I have 6x squared plus 13x plus 2. So x squared plus 13x plus 12. So 12 and 1 will make 13. And so if I multiply by that 6, right here I'm going to divide by that 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So this is x plus 2. And then that 6 is going to slide right there. 6x plus 1. There wasn't a denominator in the problem, so you can just put a little 1 right there. And then let's see, I have all my rainbow colors out today. So these cancel, both of those factors are in the numerator, so it looks like my final answer is just like that. Unless it was, nope, it was multiply, so no reason to flip anything, we're good. Okay, I'm guessing we're getting to the end soon of this. Yes, this next one, number 8, is our last one, and it's divide. Question 8, I didn't put a cube on the test. I definitely remember that I put it on the review just to practice. I didn't put a cube on the test, so you don't have to factor any cubes on the test itself, so you might even want to consider skipping number 8. I also took the cubing factoring off of the final exam. It just seemed like one more thing under all these circumstances, and I'm not there to walk you through the review. So let's just not do number 8. All right, number 9. Perform the indicated operation. So now we're adding and subtracting. I see on number 9, it's a subtract. So the denominators are the same. 2x minus 1 over, let's write number 9 in case you're scrolling around looking for specific questions, minus x plus 4 over 5x, is that a positive? Plus 2. All right, I would put parentheses around that guy because you need to distribute this negative. So these are the same. So don't forget to write the denominator in the answer. Maybe it'll factor out, maybe it won't, we don't know. And so then we have 2x minus 1 minus 5x minus 2. When I multiply that negative through to both pieces, 2x and a minus 5x is negative 3x, and negative 1 and negative 2 is a negative 3. So that's that one. I can factor a GCF out of there, but it's not going to do anything because the factors aren't going to cancel. So you can totally just leave your answer like that. All right, question 10. I'm looking at 10, I'm looking at it without glasses, and it looks to me at first glance like those denominators are still the same. So something may or may not factor. It's negative again, so question 10, x squared plus 2x, distribute that negative. I'm just going to distribute as I write it, so that x is negative and the 30 turns negative. And so this becomes x squared plus x minus 30. I can tell that's going to factor to x plus 6 and x minus 5. The denominator is x squared plus 8x plus 12. I also can tell that's going to factor because 6 and 2 add up to 8 and multiply to 12, and so I know those guys are going to drop out. And so those x plus 6's cancel, and that's the final answer that you're going to see. All right. Number 11. Okay, so for this one, the denominators are not the same. So now we need to work on getting a common denominator. So 3x over x squared minus 25 can just be written as x plus 5x minus 5 plus x over x plus 5. All right, so my common denominator needs one of each of the factors I see. So I need an x plus 5, I need an x minus 5, and then I need to go back to those terms and go, gosh, what's missing? This is this. So that 3x just can be plopped right over here. This and this, however, are not the same. So I'm missing that x minus 5. So I want to make sure I multiply this by x minus 5. And then technically I'm doing the same thing down there. So I'm going to distribute this. So plus x times x is x squared, and then x times negative 5 is minus 5x. I can add some like terms right there, so kind of forgive the sloppiness. I'm going to write that x squared first. So x squared minus 2x over x plus 5, x minus 5. I can pull out an x here, but again, nothing's going to cancel, so this is done. It's a wrap. All right. 12 has those opposite factors. There's one super similar to all of these on chapter 6 test. Number 12 is a pretty highly missed one, and it's pretty quick. So you might want to watch me do it a couple times because the one on the test is almost exactly the same. So we have x squared over x minus 6 plus, oh, this is number 12, plus 36 over 6 minus x. All right. These are almost the same. The signs are just backwards. So we wish that x was positive, and we wish that positive 6 matched this and was negative. So in order to switch it, I need to pull out a negative, which is going to change this to a negative. So I'm going to rewrite this. This changes to a negative. 36 stays 36. And this guy, because I pulled that negative 1 out, it switches both signs. But let's rewrite that order to x minus 6 so that the bottoms match. This negative here, I'm going to assign to the numerator. And then this can be factored. And so something similar happens on the exam as well, where things factor and things like that. So then your final answer is x plus 6. All right, how many questions? Bear with me. I'm just going to scroll through real quick. It looks like 21, and I'm on 12. So I'm going to do all the add and subtract, and then I'll stop the video, and then, because otherwise it'll take forever to upload. And then I'll put the second half on a second video. I gained a little confidence here today. My daughter and I did a yoga video yesterday by somebody who probably has, I don't know, 50 or 60 yoga videos up on YouTube. And she was saying goofy things all the time and kind of messing up in the middle of her video. And I was like, well, gosh, she's kind of a professional. So I'll give myself a little grace here. All right, so I'm looking, number 13, again, I'm adding. These are not the same, not similar at all, but we do need to include both in that denominator. So I need an x minus 3. I don't know why I switched colors, an x plus 4. And so when I compare this to this, I am missing the x plus 4. And then technically, you had to multiply the denominator also. And then for this fraction here, when I compare this to this, I am missing that x minus 3. And so I'm only writing it here so that you see that what you're really not changing the value of the fraction, but that is taken care of right there. So you don't need to do anything with that. All right, so this is now my challenge. So I'm going to use all this space. So x times x is x squared plus 4x plus 12x. I've jumped to over here without telling you, minus 36. So x squared plus 16x minus 36. This actually does factor to 18 and 2, but if you look at these, it's not 18 or 2, so there's no point in factoring it. If you did and you kept it in factored form, great, but that's equally acceptable and as far as you can go with that one. All right, last add and subtract. All levels. Please know that I always have some ones that are a little bit more challenging, like maybe number 14 just takes you a little bit longer. My tests always add up to more than 100, and so you're always able to miss 1 or 2 questions and still earn 100%. So I just kind of do that as a courtesy, just in case maybe I didn't explain something so well, or maybe I asked a question that was a little bit harder than what we looked at in the homework accidentally, or just something like that. So if adding and subtracting is really difficult, it seems like really far away, like this would be a perfect example of, if I wouldn't suggest skipping it because I always do partial credit, but just know that I give you a little grace. All right, so we're going to factor this. We're going to factor this to, I feel like I must have written it down wrong. Oh, this is a plus. All right, so x plus 2 and x plus 1. And so my common denominator, I need one of everybody I see. So I need an x plus 1, an x plus 2, and an x plus 3. All right. So what am I missing? I'm missing here the x plus 1. What am I missing here? I'm missing here the x plus 3. And now I'm going to use this space here to mess with that. Don't lose sight of the fact that you have a negative right there. All right, so multiplying through x times x, x squared, plus 1x, minus 2x, distributing here, and then minus 6 gives me x squared minus, minus 1x minus 6, or x minus 3, x plus 2. So that's my numerator. And so it looks like these are my common factors. So this that I'm writing is the final answer, x minus 3 over x plus 1, x plus 3. Okay. Oh, and this is number 14. All right. And now, oh, there is one more. Add and subtract. Oh, this is a great question. Maybe I should have given the whole bonus spiel when I look at this one. Oh, and there's another one I give you too that has some challenge pieces to it. So x plus 5 over x plus 3 plus x plus 7 over x plus 2 minus, notice that's minus 7x plus 19 over, when I already factored this for you, and I wrote this upside down, but it's not a big deal. All right, so my common denominator is going to have an x plus 2 and an x plus 3. All right, so the thing that's going to make this unique is notice that I have a binomial in the numerator. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom here by x plus 2 because that's what I'm missing. And then I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom here by x plus 3. And then I'm going to FOIL. So I'll FOIL this one in blue. When I FOIL that out, I get x squared plus 2x plus 5x plus 10. Or x squared plus 7x plus 10. I'll just leave that alone and switch colors. When I FOIL here, I get x squared plus 3x plus 7x plus 21, or x squared plus 10x plus 21. And that's a positive, because that's a plus. And then let's bring down that third piece. Don't forget the negative, so maybe put parentheses there. When I distribute that negative, this is the part of the problem everybody forgets. It's going to become a negative 7x and a negative 19. So I'm going to add all these like terms and put my answer in black ink. So 1 plus 1 is 2x squared, positive 7, positive 10, and negative 7. Those 7s basically cancel each other out. I have a 10 and 21 make 31. Take away 19 makes a positive 12. And then I got to factor that to make sure that, like, when I put it up here, everything's factored in case there's common factors. Notice all of these are even, so pull that 2 out. Two numbers that multiply to 6 that add up to 5. In this case, we are going to use that 2 and 3 because everything is positive. And then watch, this is like one of those aha moments, because look at how similar the numerator is to the denominator we already wrote down. And so that cancels, and we literally did a board full of work to discover our final answer is 2. So, all right, and this is question 15. And then we're at the solve ones. So, I only have a few more to do. Yeah, we'll just keep going. All right, I'm a liar. Here we go, 16. Question 16 says solve. Notice there's an equal sign. So our goal for the solve is not the same thing as our goal for the add. When we solve for x, we want to get the fraction like gone by step 2. So what's my common denominator here? Well, I need a 5 and I need an x. So I'm going to multiply everybody through by 5x. And I wouldn't skimp on this step. I would write it 3 times, even when it's a pain, even on those word problems, because otherwise people make mistakes. So that whole thing cancels, and the only thing left right here is 3. Plus, the x's cancel. This is 2 multiplied by 5, which is 10. And then 1 times 5x is 5x. And then this just couldn't be easier. 3 plus 10 is 5x. Undo multiply by divide, and just leave your answer as 13/5. You can put it as a decimal if you want, 2.6. I don't care. All right, 17. More complicated, same idea. So on question 17, I have 1 over x plus 8 over x squared minus 2x. I'll factor that for you in just a second. Equals x plus 2 over x minus 2. All right, this guy right here factors. I have a GCF, so I can pull that x out. So this is my common denominator. So again, I'm going to write that 3 times, even though it's a little bit of a pain. So x times x minus 2, x times x minus 2, x times x minus 2. Maybe take a second, put parentheses around that. All right, let's see what cancels. That whole thing cancels with that. Not really the whole thing. The x's cancel. This is what's left. So I have x minus 2 there. This whole thing cancels with that whole thing. So this is just plus x equals the x minus 2 drops out here. If you notice, I have x plus 2 times x. So if I distribute that, it's written kind of backwards, but if I distribute that, I get x squared plus 2x. Let's get my like terms together here, and then I'm going to move everybody to the right. So x plus 6 equals x squared plus 2x minus x minus 6. So I have 0 equals x squared plus x minus 6, and so x plus 3, x minus 2. So it looks like my 2 answers are a -3 or a +2. And then I kind of got to go back up here and check, are either of these going to cause my denominator to be 0? If I put 2 in right here, 2 take away 2 is 0. So this one won't work, because if I plug that in, it makes my denominator 0, which you're not allowed to have. So that's gone. So my whole answer to the question is -3. All right. Number 18. So we looked at a couple of the word problems, I think 4. And so I believe there are 4 problems that are on the test that are word problems. I do give you a point, even if you don't know how to solve it, I do reward you a point just for setting up the equation correctly. So keep that in mind if you're struggling, not to leave it blank. If you just kind of follow the pattern and set it up, I still award you 1 point. Not for sure, they're either worth 3 or 4. So I even either give you 25% of the credit or 33% of the credit just for setting it up. All right, Amanda can sew something in 7. Emily can sew it in 5. So these are the 1/overs. 1/over plus 1/over equals 1/over together. My common denominator, 7 times 5 is 35. That's one way to find that common denominator. And don't forget you need an x. So 35x, 35x, 35x. And so 5 goes into 30, or 7 goes into 35 5 times. And then we're just going to multiply by 1, so that doesn't change. This goes into that 7 times. 5x plus 7x is 12x. And then here the x's drop out. And then these, unless it's a squared situation where you need to factor, they're not going to work out nice, ever. They never work out nice. And so you would never really say 35. How long did that take you? 35 over 12 minutes. No, so let's make this one a decimal. If you get this far and forget, you're fine. 12 goes into 36 3 times. Again, I didn't grab a calculator, so 12 must go into 35. I am just going to take a stab that it's 2.9. And Correct me if I'm wrong. You can throw that in your calculator on your phone. All right. 19. Similar, but not exact. Remember, you get points for just setting it up. So number 19, it takes one 12 hours longer than the other. So one has to be slow, one has to be fast. So let's read it through together. Pump A takes 12 hours longer. So this is the slow one. So make BX, because it's going to take A 12 hours more. And then 1 over. So 1 over x plus 12 plus 1 over x equals, and then it says together they can do it in 8. So this one does have a really long common denominator you need to multiply through by. We have 8, everybody needs to be up there, x, and then x plus 12. 8x, x plus 12. 8x, x plus 12. All right. So cancel here. You have 8x. Cancel here. You're going to have to distribute what's in red right there. So I'm going to distribute that 8 times that x plus 12. So 8x plus 96. My 8 cancels here. I'm going to distribute this to get x squared plus 12x. Add my like terms. Sorry about the square. Let's move this to the other side, make it negative. Move that to the other side. Line everything up. So this is now 0. So x squared minus 4x minus 96. All right, so I need two numbers that multiply to 96 and add up to 4. Kind of check out where it came from. It came from multiplying 8 times 12 in the first place. All right, it came from when I multiplied that 8 times that 12. Hey, and guess what? 8 and 12 can create 4 if one of them is negative. So that does happen often. Hint, hint, hint. And so if you're looking for the factors, you already know them that you're probably going to use. And then, so x equals positive 12. Here I would get a negative 8. Remember, the context of the question is you're filling a pool, and this stands for the number of hours. So there's no way you can have a negative number. Time cannot be negative unless you're in some weird Star Trek universe. And so if x is 12, let's go up and answer the question. So pump B took 12 hours. And pump A, 12 plus 12, pump A took 24 hours. And so that is the more difficult of those word ones, or the work, not word, the work. Maybe it's the most difficult word problem as well. All right. We didn't do the truck one. And the review I'm looking at doesn't have the ratio problems. So I hope I pulled up something that's similar. If not, just work through this one with me, or I can send this to you if I just went through and did this whole one. The problems are super similar, and so let's hope for the best, huh? I can give you an example of the ratio ones and just kind of do one off the top of my head. I must have 6 versions of everything on my laptop. So unless I know which one I'm actually, and so many of them are like chapter 6 review, chapter 6 review. So, all right, so let's do this. There's parentheses around here. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally with those order of operations. So I definitely have to do this first. So I need an x plus 4 and an x minus 4 from my common denominator. So I'm going to multiply this. I'm missing the x plus 4. I'm missing here the x minus 4. So this becomes x squared plus 4x. This becomes plus, because it's a plus, 6x minus 24, or this top piece becomes x squared plus 10x minus 24 over x plus 4, x minus 4. This now I can introduce this. Actually, you know what? Look at that. Make sure you wrote it down because I'm going to erase it because I do want it in factored form. And that way I don't have to erase the whole thing. So two numbers that multiply to a negative 24 but add up to 10. If you think 4 and 6, there's no way they both have to be negative. Or they both have to be positive to make a positive 10, but that's not going to give you what you need here. So you have to scratch that, and this is going to factor to a positive 12 and a negative 2. All right, so that's what I'm going to write right here. So x plus 12, x minus 2. Okay. This flips upside down. So the 3's on the bottom. That's just done. And then here, notice I'm going to have to factor out that GCF of 2. I get x plus 4 and x minus 4. Oh, I'm sorry. I did that all in my head. All right. So let's go back. Scratch that. Let's go back and just pull out that 2x squared minus 16. And so now x squared minus 16 becomes x plus 4, x minus 4. So I'm going to put that right here. All right, so this cancels with this cancels with that 2 is still there, that 3 is still there. I went through that whole process of factoring and I didn't even have to. And so my final answer is going to be that in the numerator with the 2 right here and the 3 right there. And that'll just, since I ran out of space, that's my final answer. If you never factored it to begin with, that's fine. You could have that longer version that I already erased up there. Either way. Okay. There's the one with the animals, and I don't have that on my computer screen, but there's just the basic type of ratio problems, proportion problems, I should say, as well. For instance, I think the one we did in class had to do with baking. So if 3 cups of flour makes, I'm just making this up, 50 cookies, then how many cups of flour would you need if you wanted to make 90 cookies? And so I'm going to get myself in a jam here because once again I didn't bring a calculator and I haven't stopped this. So you want to do flour over cookies equals flour over cookies. It doesn't matter which one goes on top as long as you're consistent. So if you're like, I want the cookies on top, just write it like that. As long as the same matches, either in the numerator or the denominator. So 3 over 50 equals, this is the thing you don't know, how much flour would I need if I need to make 90 cookies? And now remember, if it's fraction equals fraction, you can just do that little shortcut of cross multiply. So 50x equals 270, divide by 50, divide by 50. Go ahead and give me a decimal for that because you would never say I need 270 over 50 cups of flour. Those zeros die off. 5 divides into 27 5 times with the remainder of 2. 2/5 is 0.4, so I need 5.4 cups, which is still weird because in cooking we use fractions, but that's totally fine. All right, good enough. So that concludes our video. I so hope this was helpful. I'm sorry. My sincerest apologies for those of you who have a test in Math Solutions and I didn't grab it. I do feel bad about that. Who would have guessed that it would have ended up being stuck there? I inquired. with the department head, and they then asked other people in the IT or maintenance or somebody, and nobody is able to get into the building at this time. So good luck with this. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll do the same thing on future reviews, including the final and chapter 10 and 11. So I'll probably just continue to do the whiteboard because that way I have more working space, and some of those graphing ones I'll need this whole area. So take care, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.